be seated. Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas.
The nativity scene is a central part of our Christmas celebration. Creches, like the one here, right in front of the lectern, adorn our homes and our churches. And parents and grandparents gather to watch with pride as children are transformed into lambs and angels and shepherds. And although we know the story, we eagerly anticipate the arrival of Joseph and Mary into Bethlehem, the angels singing "Rejoice," and Jesus' birth in the manger. So familiar has the nativity scene become that once it's set, we often don't pay much attention to it again. And yet occasionally something very different and striking occurs in a nativity scene, something that captures our attention and invites us to take pause and perhaps to think newly or even differently about God's inbreaking into the world. Climbing into the back seat of the car at school pickup, 5-year-old Milo turned to his mom and he said, "Mom, guess what I am for the nativity? I'm a classic one." "A classic one?" Mom pondered. And then taking a wild guess, she said, "Joseph?" "No," said Milo. "Okay, thinking again. One of the wise men?" "No." She said. "It's a classic role, is it?" He said, "Yeah." And so stumped, she looked at him and she said, "Okay, you tell me." And suddenly, bubbling with excitement and joy, Milo announces proudly, "I'm door holder number 3. I'll be holding doors." And not missing a beat, his mom said, "That's amazing." And then she followed with, "Holding doors for who?" Thoughtfully, Milo answered, "Probably for Joseph and Mary." His mom said, "Oh my gosh, were you pleased when they said that?" And then Milo really lit up. "And I was like, I'm a door holder." And then stepping right into his role, he said, "Get in there. Let's go. Yes." And then he added, "And I'll probably have to wear brown." And his mom's like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, probably." And smiling at him, his mom just said, "You know, Milo, that's really smart. That's amazing." Now, I suspect that most of us cannot imagine a nativity scene with a door holder. Maybe Milo's role as a door holder was to hold the door open for Mary and Joseph as they entered the stage of the pageant. Or maybe it was to hold open the door to the barn or the cave where Jesus would be born, beckoning to a very pregnant Mary and her very anxious husband Joseph, "Get in there, let's go, yes." Thrilled to play a part, Milo seemed to understand that to be a door holder was an important and indeed a classic calling. As a door holder, he would be one who makes a way forward, who's a bearer of holy hospitality, and a person who is a bearer of welcome. Now, across the world, in Bethlehem, where this year Christmas has been canceled, lies another unusual nativity scene. Tucked inside of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Bethlehem, at the foot of their lectern, is a large pile of jagged rocks and rubble, a painful visual reminder of the devastation of war that today plagues the Holy Land, a devastation that makes rejoicing almost impossible. And lying there on that rubble of rock, wrapped in a simple cloth is the Christ child. Reverend Dr. Munker Isaacs said, God is under the rubble in Gaza. He is with the frightened, and he is with the refugees. He is in the operating room. He walks through the valley of death with the people of the Holy Land. Now, these two examples of nativity offer contradictory images and context for the nativity. And on this night, when we gather to remember and claim and celebrate God's coming to dwell with humanity, we may find that in one breath, we anticipate with joy the hoped-for peace and the possibility promised to us by God, while in the very next breath, we breathe a sigh as we hold with heavy hearts the reality that even with Christ's coming, pain, suffering, and division still plague our world and our lives. Perhaps this is the truth of our human existence, that in the midst of our joy, we may also know sorrow. Fear and trepidation, worry, and more take residence within us. And it's good then that we should gather together on this holy night, hoping and praying for God to enter in, for God to restore in us the hope that we may have lost, to heal within us the wounds that still fester, and to assure us that Christ's promised reign of peace is not just talk, not just mere words, but that Christ will come and will come again soon. For all that it is and all that it is not, this Christmas is the Christmas that we have. And so the invitation is to trust that God's incarnation, Jesus, will meet each of us right where we are, filling us up with the radiant light that shines through the darkness, which the darkness cannot overcome. Hearing about and imagining and seeing the Christ child in the rubble may be discomforting, painful. And yet we can be reminded that even in the worst moments of our lives, in the depths of our own personal losses and struggles, even in times like we live in today where human beings are treating one another with hatred and aggression, that Christ is there and that he will always be and he will be found. And so I invite you until the time when Christ comes again to cling tightly to one another this night. Give thanks. Give thanks for a God who loves you so much that he chose to dwell among you. And always, let us all be bold and passionate door holders like Milo, who eagerly open the doors of our hearts to God, to the Christ child, and call out to him and say, "Get in here. Let's go." Yes. Amen.